What's going on, people? This is Grammatics TV, and I'm giving you my 5 top R&B albums of the year 2025. It's got to fulfill criteria, though, for it to be in the list. And the criteria is lyrics, singing, tone, delivery, sonics in terms of the way the beats are produced, mixed, mastered, and then obviously concepts, relatable concepts that you can understand, and concepts that show expansiveness on the album. So I've got 5 albums. Obviously, I've said 5 will be on the list, but I'm adding in 6 albums actually. So it will be joint position for 2 albums on the list. I had to put 2 in there because they were both good, and I couldn't think of just saying, yo, let me just put 1 in there. So we're having 2 albums on one of the positions to be a joint position, right? To fulfill, the list. So the first album at number 5 is Nao. Nao's album, Jupiter. That album for me, top album from top to bottom. Top album in terms of the lyrics, in terms of the singing. If you know Nao, London-born artist. She makes R&B, pop influence, alternative R&B. Good album, strong album. I want to name some of the highlights for me. 11 songs on the album. 30-something, Elevate, Happy People, Light Years, We All Win, All of Me. She knows what she was doing on that song. And those are the main songs, but there's more, but those are the main songs. The album to me sounds like she's showing that she's content, showing that she's happier in the place that she's in mentally, obviously, I'm sure, also professionally. That's the vibe I'm getting from the album. And also, she also understands how sometimes the thought process that she had can affect her, especially if they're not positive thoughts. So she's at a point where she's a bit more, it seems, comfortable where she's at in her skin and everything. That's the vibe I'm getting, like I said. So I think the album is a good album. Production-wise, it's consistent. Mid-tempo, it's got up-tempo. It's even got an Afro-beat type vibe on there from one of the tracks. All of Me Now, I mentioned that track. She knows what she was doing on that. That All of Me track, it gets wheeled up, played back again. It's a banger. It's a short track. That's the only thing that I thought, it's a bit too short. But that track hits. R&B vibe. It's got pads in there, strings. And even the way the hook is said, it's said it in like an abstract way. The placement of the hook, that's what makes it catchy. Where she placed her words of the words All of Me, the way she did it, smart. And the way it was just moving and grooving with the beat, big tune. Elevate as well. There's another track called Elevate. It's got like an 80s arrangement. The hook, the guitar solo on there is heavy, strong, good, well-produced album. So that's number 5. Now, the one that's coming in at number 5 also has to be Coco Jones, Why Not More. Good album, strong album again. But I would say this one was more about the sound. Lyrically, it was good. I think as a debut, it was one of those debuts that suggested, I'm just going to come out and give you something easy on the ears, not too complicated initially as a debut. And then obviously, I'm going to give you something that you can vibe to, you can understand. That's what I kind of got from the lyrics. Quite straightforward, but vocally on point and sonically on point as well. Production is well done here as well. You got London on the track on here. And then you got other good top producers as well. Highlights: Keep It Quiet, Taste, On Site, AEOMG, Here We Go, Why Not More, and Is It Mine. I'm feeling the features on this album as well. She had Lady London on here. She had a few other features that worked. It just was consistent, cohesive. She didn't get outshined. She was sitting on the beats pretty well. Everything flowed pretty well. But like I said, this one was more for me about Sonic's sound and how she vocalized. She had a track on here that for me reminded me of the melody, a little bit of Brandy's Angel in Disguise. When I heard that, I was like, kind of sounds like Brandy. The melody. The song was called Is It Mine? Featuring Lady London, right? The beat and the melody, there's something about it. It kind of reminded me of the Angel in Disguise, melody, just parts of it. Good moments, well done beats, some trap drums on some of the beats, some typical R&B 90s moments. So that goes in that. Joint number 5. Now, at number 4, another good album that was on there, representing for the man them, and it's Jon B, Waiting on You. 11 tracks on this album. I think this album suggests to me that he's showing that he's got his interpretation of how love is on him. So he's always had albums that obviously express, love, relationships, hurt. But on this one, he's now at a point where he's like, hey, this is what I'm feeling about love, right? So I'm not here to express it. And some of the standout tracks on this album are Chosen, Still Got Love for You, Show Me, Waiting on You, Natural Drug, Bandit in the Night, and Drifting. Strong album. Vocally, if you know Jon B, you know what Jon B does. Keeps it in the pocket, keeps it simple. Trills, handles the beats well produced beats, good grooves on the beats as well. Again, if you know Jon B, even the album at times had a bit of, if you know 2004, I believe it was Stronger Every Day, his album. It had moments of that in terms of the production to me. Chosen was a grown man type vibe, grown man swag type beat. Groove, Still Got Love for You. That one is more put on your suit, ladies, put on your dress and we're going out. It's vibes, it's dancing, it's sophisticated affair. That's what that Still Got Love for You was. Show Me, mid-tempo groove with the harps. Alex Isley as well was featured on this album. Well done. Strong vocally. Again, if you know Alex Isley, that's what she does. Strong vocally, and she complimented him. Everything just fitted well with her and him. And that was the track Show Me. And then, Waiting on You featuring Tank, both vocally on point. That one was more of, low-key, laid-back vibe, typical R&B. And then Natural Drug, the feeling he gets from his lady, basically, it's like a natural drug, right? And Bandit in the Night, slow jam. Bandit in the Night, typical slow jam. And yeah, man, strong album. Waiting on You, 11 tracks. Jon B at number 4. Number 3, The Weeknd. Hurry Up Tomorrow. 22 tracks on there. This one, I kind of figured, I was thinking, shall I put it on there? Just based on the fact that Weeknd has quite expansive sound. He has quite an expansive sound. It's not just set in R&B, but because he had a lot of moments where it reminded me of 80s R&B, had a bit of pop influences on there, but it was 80s R&B and even some 90s in there. It had to go in. Based on, he kept it still R&B in many moments on the 22 tracks. So it had to go in there. Well-produced album. The beats, the pads, the strings, a lot of 80s and 90s in there. Moments of like trap type drums. And then obviously moments of just, if you know that 80s and R&B sound, you're getting a lot of, airy sort of space for his vocal. I think this album was more to me like he's happy and finished with the Weeknd persona, and now he's waiting for something new, or he's on to the next sort of, chapter in his life. I could be wrong, but that's the vibe I'm getting from this album. It came across like, I'm ready for my next chapter following the end of the Weeknd, name and persona, and now what's next? But highlights on the album: Wake Me Up, Cry for Me, Opening Night, Enjoy the Show, Give Up on Me, I Can't Wait to Get There, Timeless, Give Me Mercy. It has moments of like his reconnecting, it seems, to his faith. It seems he's acknowledging the ups and downs, where he went life wise, where he went professionally and personally, and some of the moments where he was veering off. And it seemed he was making it clear that, look, I know where home is, and that's where my belief system is. And it seems he was really confident to express that. Wake Me Up, Thriller sample. It was done well. It wasn't overbearing, because when you're doing something like that, when you're making a classic, or you've made a good track, right? Like Thriller, that Michael Jackson, we know what that is. That's a top track. It was the right sample and it fitted. It wasn't one of those overbearing kind of sounds where it was like, why did you take that? It was well done. So Wake Me Up, well done. Cry For Me was another track on there. Production, different elements. It has trap in there, electro vibes, R&B elements. It was quite expansive. There was moments where the beat switched and then it went from trap, then it went to electro, mid-tempo. It gave you different, looks on the album. You've also got Mike Dean on the album as well. If you know Mike Dean, you know what he does when it comes to his engineering and his ability to produce as well. The synths on there sounded so clean. There was moments where they sounded thick. It sounds like everything was just like mixed so sharply and rounded. You can hear it. If you've got good, speakers when you're listening to this, you will hear that on there. Very well done in terms of production and sonics and everything in that regard. But yeah, man, strong album, quite a long album, 22 tracks, but it's not tracks that you skip. You can play it quite all the way through. And that was pretty impressive for an album to have that many tracks and keep it consistent. Strong album. Number 3, The Weeknd, Hurry Up Tomorrow. Number 2, tough choice. I was going back and forth between the 1 and 2 that I've got, but number 2 will be Daniel Caesar, Son of Spurgie. 12 tracks. Top tracks on the album are, for me, Rain Down, Have a Baby, Call on Me, Baby Blue, Root of All Evil, Sign of the Times, 70s soul R&B vibes on there. Vocally does well on there. Keeps it within the range that's required to me on beats like this. He's got 70s funk, 70s R&B, a bit of 90s R&B as well, and just the up-to-date sort of R&B sound as well that will be, representative of what's going on today. Rain Down, for example, he's praising God, basically. He's praising God, his belief. And it's like a thank you sort of song to me. Call on Me, to me, sounds like something Prince could have had. Production-wise, something that, Prince could have had. And for me, again, on this album also, the lyrics are, you understand it. It's quite straightforward, which is a good thing at times. But sometimes, you want to be able to cipher stuff, particularly if you're a certain kind of person where you want to be like, okay, what's he talking about? It's a strong album in terms of beats, lyrics, voice, concepts. For example, he has a track on there called Sign of the Times. It has like old school 70s strings on there. The beat at one point has like a Come Close, sound to it from Common. The beat that Neptune's produced, Come Close, has a bit of that in there, and I believe that could be a sample. But yeah, he's talking about different things, no more loving on women that he's not really feeling anymore, no more leading them down a path that he doesn't really want, but he's now being honest, it seems, on this album about his shortcomings at times. He has a track on there, Root of All Evil, to me, has like a 70s tempo. Bobby Caldwell, to me, kind of vocal, in terms of the mixing of the vocal. It has a bit of that on there. The sound, reminiscent of it in terms of how it's mixed and the vocal projection and, the just the whole sonics of it. Tracks you can play through Can't really skip them too tough. You play them through. And yeah, man, again, if you're listening to R&B and you want something fresh, I think for this one, it goes in your playlist. Now, number 1, we have Giveon with Beloved, and that's 14 tracks on this album. Very good album, no skips for me. Play the album, no skips. I can play it from start to finish and just let it play. Some of the standouts on this album are Mud, 20s, Strangers, strong one, Numb, I Can't Tell, Bleeding, Good, Bad, and Ugly. Strong. Now, what stands out about this album is the cohesiveness, vocally and production-wise. The 70s, 80s R&B soul sound that he has on here fits well. He doesn't mess around on this album. Concept-wise, vocally, and production. The production, the chemistry between him and the producers is, you can hear it. There's no kind of issue for me on this album. I'm talking straight production and vocals. There's no real issues. The sound that he has on here, it's a very much laid back at times sound, consistent in terms of the tempos, but it doesn't sound mundane. It doesn't have any of that kind of issue if the tempos and everything is quite consistent. Mud is one of the tracks on there. Good production. He was speaking about how his name was taken through the mud at one point, after after relationships ended. 20s, 70s soul. 70s soul. It was him obviously talking about relationships that he didn't believe weren't right for him in hindsight. But when some people are in a relationship, they just, rationalize. But him coming to a conclusion that, look, wasn't the right thing or the right moments, but I can now be honest and say that, So that one, 70s soul R&B on that one. Strangers, proper R&B. He's going from feeling like someone, they're not knowing them. Those kind of like, but I thought we had all these memories. I thought we had this and that. And it's like, boom, one day I know you and it's like, I don't know you no more. It's like blink of an eye. I Can Tell, soulful beat, Again, everything about this album is soul, strings, bass, grooves, 70s R&B, 80s R&B, and vocally, if you know him, he does what he does on there, keeps it simple, keeps it in the pocket, gets expansive when he has to, but never goes too far. Laid back moments, up-tempo moments, grooves that are consistent of a, Al Greenish moments in terms of his production, the tempos. And yeah, man, I give this one the number 1 album, Giveon, Beloved. So yes, those are my top 5 albums. I had to throw a joint album in there, at number 5. But if you're listening to R&B this year or in 2025 and you need some albums, check these ones out. And if you've heard them already, let me know what you think. And also, like the video. And let's have a discussion. Tell me what you think about the albums that I've put in this list.